I told my mom and dad that because they voted for someone who wants me dead, that they no longer have the privilege of having their daughter and their granddaughters in their life. And I told them, never contact me again.
Oh.
I'm never calling you. I want nothing to do with you. And take me out of the will.
Oh.
I have a younger brother who is also a MAGA. I said, when you guys pass away, give him the entire house. I don't want to inherit your house. I don't want anything from you. I don't want to hear from you ever again.
So my MAGA aunt died a week and a half ago, and I haven't talked to her since like 2016, 2017, cut her out. And I've always wondered, because it wasn't just her, it was other family members too that I cut out. How would I feel when they pass? Like, would I regret the time that I missed with them? And I kind of thought that I would. And instead, what I regret the most is that she was not a good person. That she was my aunt and my godmother, and she was not a good person. And every time somebody posts on Facebook or wherever, and they're like, oh, she was amazing, she was so kind. Yeah, she probably was to white people. Or she really loved her family. She made this incredible family. Yeah. Because as far as we know, nobody in her family is gay or lesbian or, well, there's no people of color in the family either. So, I mean, I'm not going to say those things. People have a right to grieve. But it's interesting to me and kind of sad that my biggest regret is that she doesn't have time now to become a better person. And the funny thing is that she didn't care. She didn't want to become a better person. She thought she was perfectly fine as she was, being completely racist and homophobic. So, I mean, that answers that question.
My brother was in town visiting me recently, and we have MAGA parents that we haven't spoken to in 8 years because, again, they're MAGA parents. My brother seems to think this like, oh, we could agree to disagree. Oh, we can move past it. Oh, we can meet them where they're at. I'm not like that. I don't feel that way. But I do have a relationship with him, and I do love him, and he is not MAGA. So for his own benefit, I went and sat in support while we had this weird dinner with my parents. And I was very shocked and also reassured to find that 8 years later, zero personal growth has taken place. I mean, we're talking this is almost a decade, okay? And everything that happened economically and everything that happened politically and even just what we may have gone through in 8 years as individuals, they are the same people. Just total problematic behavior. Racism, homophobic, fucking sexist, misogynist, the whole 9 yards. They are completely brainwashed by legacy media. Completely. There is zero critical thinking going on at all. And you can see where my mom, the gears are kind of trying to grind, but they're not quite making the cut because the machine is just so very old and outdated, and those skills have never been utilized. And I just for anybody out there who's wondering when this whole nightmare is going to be over and when they're going to get their parents back, when are we going to see the end of this train wreck? It's when the boomers expire. When the conservative boomers expire, that is going to be the end of it. Your parents are not coming back. Those people are gone. You may as well go ahead and let that shit go.
Mom, who do you blame for the shutdown?
The Democrats.
Why is that?
They wanted to include, it was an ungodly amount. I don't even know what the amount was, $1 billion for aid, healthcare to illegals.
That's not true.
Now, if you don't think we're paying for illegal healthcare right now.
What you've said is not true.
Okay, if you don't think yes, it is. If you don't think we're paying for healthcare to illegals for illegal people right now, then you are crazy. If an illegal right here on my street would walk across and accidentally get hit by a car, the ambulance would be called and they would be taken to the hospital. They would be cared for. They would be cared for. Who pays for that? The American people.
Who pays for it if it's somebody who's uninsured but a U.S. citizen? The American people.
What Republicans do not want is the people that came across the border that are healthy, that are illegals, to be given, here's your card, Go get your free health care.
They don't do that. That does not exist. That doesn't exist.
Okay.
You believe it does because the Republicans are saying that, but that is literally a lie.
This is where we are, and it's very sad. It's very hard to convince MAGA parents of the truth because they live in a little bubble where they consume news from only one source, and they're not being fed the actual information. And that's why they wonder how the rest of us, we see the world from a different view. So let's get to see more. Please like and share. Then I'll come back with more, right?
So my dad came over this weekend, and he's a big MAGA supporter. I mean, this guy fucking loves Donald Trump. And for like 6 hours, we fucking battled it out, dude. We were screaming at each other, arguing. My wife had to go hide in the bedroom. But it's important to me because my dad's fucking brainwashed, right? And every point that he brought up, I would bring up a credible source to debunk that claim. And one of the things that got him was that he said Donald Trump wasn't responsible for January 6th, and he said the election wasn't stolen. He's not the one saying that. It's liberals saying that. And I go, so Donald Trump isn't saying over and over again that the election's stolen? And he's like, no. And I go, so you haven't seen him on Fox News saying over and fucking over again that the election was stolen? And he thought about it, and I brought up 10 different videos showing him every time he said that. And again, I ask him, so you don't think Donald Trump is the one saying the election stolen? And he goes, no. And I go, dude, you're fucking brainwashed, bro. People who are brainwashed don't know that they're brainwashed. And I think that kind of clicked for him. And I'm like, Dad, I'm showing you evidence and you're still believing one thing. That's literally George Orwell's doublethink in 1984. And finally he goes, I might be brainwashed. And I go, yeah. The only way to combat being brainwashed is to admit that you might be brainwashed. CFH, I might be brainwashed, and you know what? I know what I'm brainwashed about. So that was a huge deal for him. And then he texted me a few hours later, and he said, I really am trying to figure out what's going on. I think I might be brainwashed. So he's slowly realizing that he's been manipulated for the past 4 years. And I'm really proud of him. My dad's a smart guy. My point is, I think the fever's breaking. I'm not going to say keep having these conversations with your family, but in my case, I really care about my dad and what he thinks, and I don't like to think of him being brainwashed. That really bothers me. So the fever's breaking. I'm seeing it in my own family.
So I am not going home for Christmas this year. In fact, I haven't gone home for Christmas since 2021, actually. Because MAGA isn't just a divide in DC, it is a divide in our families. I'm not going home because I haven't talked to my dad since Roe v. Wade was overturned. That was the point I realized I just couldn't reach him. And I mean, we'd already kind of had a strained relationship growing up, really because we're so similar. Like, we are both stubborn, overly confident, overly passionate kind of assholes. And most importantly, we are both very, very set in our moral beliefs. And there was a point in my early 20s where we'd really gotten to have a good relationship until Trump came along. My dad had voted for Obama twice and then became a diehard MAGA. And we tried for years to navigate that, but at a certain point, the anger and hatred that Trump fuels just burned away any trust or respect we had for each other. And I really haven't talked about this publicly much, because it's not just sad, it kind of makes me feel like a failure. Like, I already constantly have imposter syndrome, and if I can't reach my own dad, am I even making a difference? But then I also realized, out of all of the people following me, some of you guys gotta be in the same boat. And I wouldn't want any of you guys to feel like you're failing. If you slid in my DMs and told me you're alone on Christmas, I'd be telling you to go get yourself a bottle of wine and some candy, throw on some movies, binge some video games, rest up and treat yourself. We've got a fight ahead in 2026. So I guess I'm finally making this video to just say that. And to anyone else who might be alone over the holidays, you know, you're not alone. So I'm gonna take my own advice and drink too much and play video games and gear up for the midterms. Maybe somewhere along the way, I'll get through to someone else's dad, and that would be worth it.
My dad is the crazy raging Trumper of our family, but my mom has been silently participatory in it, and that has been more painful and damaging for me. I haven't talked to either of them since the night before the inauguration. For anyone who didn't watch that previous video all the way through, my dad, who is a World War II history buff, would not admit the Roman salutes were Roman salutes. I told him he needs to really step out of his bubble and take a look at things, and he said, "You think you're better than me? You think you're better than me?" Which, like, I don't know what do you even say to that? Like, that's the way it works. Like, you want your kids to be better than you. So yes, somehow my brother and I ended up the way we are. My mom has always claimed to be apolitical, even though socially she's probably even more bigoted than my dad. My mom didn't need to be indoctrinated by Fox News to become a racist, bigoted, misogynistic pick-me. She just hides it really well, which is why she is more damaging to me than my dad. And this has a huge overlap with the conversation about emotionally immature parents and that sort of thing, because a lot of people will talk about having like overtly abusive, angry, whatever parents. Like, my dad definitely falls into that category, not physically, but definitely emotionally, verbally abusive, for sure, 100%. But the way my mom abuses her kids is by manipulating them. It's by taking on behaviors that make it look like she's a loving parent. But if you do what she perceives as a slight, she will flip out. The night before the inauguration, I told my dad I cannot associate with fascist sympathizers and apologists. And I meant that. I 100% meant that. Like, that's actually, the fact that you cannot see that this is what it is actually makes this decision very easy for me, because you are so far gone that I don't have to question whether not ever talking to you again is the right decision. Sidebar, when I said that I can't associate, he said, "Great, now you made your mother cry, good job." So just so you know what we're dealing with here. 3 days later, like nothing ever happened, my mom texted our group chat with me, my fiance, my dad, my mom, and my brother, and was like, "Hey, we're gonna be in town for whatever doctor appointment. Do you want to all get lunch?" And all I said was, "I do not associate with fascist sympathizers." Which, by the way, was she crying when she heard that the first time, or did she not cry? You're just saying that to make me feel bad, or was she, and now she's just pretending like it never happened? All of these things are like probably the truth. Anyway, because I said that, she like flipped out in this group chat with all of my most loved ones. "All the things we've done for you, this is too far, blah, 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 blah." Mom, you voted for him. You've claimed to be apolitical. You've listened on the phone while I've like basically cried to you that if we ever wanted to have a kid living in South Carolina, like, I could fucking die. And she's like, "Oh, I had never thought about it that way." Like, and you claim to be apolitical, but these things, like, you hear the sadness, the fear in your children, both me and my brother, and it doesn't register to you. It registers when you feel like your kids are being taken away from you, though. And your idea of bringing your kids back into you is to insult me and embarrass me in this group chat. So this overlap of toxic politics and families falling apart, I feel like they were probably toxic even without the political infiltration a lot of times. The things that made the family members toxic are what makes them drawn towards MAGA. It's so much more peaceful not having to deal with any of that.
So this is for MAGA pro-life mothers. Now that we know that women and teenage girls are losing their lives in emergency rooms because of these healthcare bans that were put into place by Trump and other Republicans, and even if you believe this garbage about it being the doctors and the hospitals who are misinterpreting the law, what do you think is going to happen when your daughter shows up in an emergency room and has sepsis? Because they're not going to ask you who you voted for. They're not going to listen to you while you're screaming for them to help your daughter about how, "Oh, that's not what we meant. We met some imaginary woman that we don't know, who's irresponsible, who wants to end her pregnancy. That's who we meant. We didn't mean my daughter, whose now organs are shutting down." So why don't you give that a think while you're at church this Sunday, praying for the unborn?
Are you a kid out there who begged your parents to vote on behalf of their grandchildren and their future, only to see them turn around and vote against them? Then they have the nerve to sit there and tell you that all the things that you're worried about that will happen to their grandchildren aren't going to happen. And all those things that we tell them that are on the verge of being passed, that's not really going to happen. It doesn't matter if I tell them my personal experience. Mom and Dad, your daughter for the last 2 weeks has done nothing but worry about the future of your grandchildren. Your daughter has used every spare minute that she has to make videos advocating on behalf of the vulnerable communities. Your daughter has spent all her free time calling local representatives, calling her federal representatives. Your daughter has spent most of her free time looking up bills that they're trying to pass that would negatively affect your grandchildren, specifically your disabled granddaughter. They don't want to tell you that it's happening, but we know that it is. They want to gaslight you into believing that nothing that you're seeing is going to happen, even when it's happening right in front of our faces. So I'm here to say it's really crappy that your parents did that. It's really crappy that your parents did not advocate for their grandchildren in the way that you are. But I'm proud of you for standing up and breaking that cycle. I'm proud of you for being the parent that thought about your children with their vote. I'm proud of you for being the parent that not only stands up for your kids and fights for your kids, but fights for the future of kids like yours. I'm proud of you. I'm with you. We can't do this alone, and we're probably not going to have our parents with us fighting on our behalf. They've shown us where they stand, so we're going to have to do it together. All of us kids that have felt let down by our parents and unprotected by our parents and their choices, we're just going to do better. We're going to protect our kids and their futures in the way that ours should have been protected. And we're going to do it together. Yeah, it breaks our hearts that it has to be this way. Yeah, it breaks our hearts that our parents couldn't see what they did or what they're doing. But we do. And we're going to do better for our kids. Much better.
As a queer, liberal, adult child of a MAGA family, I need to remind y'all that there are millions of kids trapped in their small, conservative, rural towns that belong to MAGA families, that have MAGA parents, that are not MAGA, that have been marginalized, ignored, and harassed by the people that they love most their entire lives, including their teachers, including their friends, including their pastors, including their family members. Nothing about the way that those people voted says that that child deserves to be harassed or deserves to suffer. That child also does not deserve to be labeled as a MAGA because they have MAGA parents. Does that make sense? Those children are prisoners of a life that was not their making. They are waiting until the day they turn 18 to escape. I just think it's sad that the people on the left side of the political spectrum that are supposedly supposed to be their allies are just participating in marginalizing those children. Queer people live in the South, y'all. Queer kids have MAGA parents. It's so much easier to say, apple falls far from the tree, yo. I don't have any energy or time to worry about those kids. Fuck those kids. Their parents voted for it. They deserve it. It's easy to think that when you no longer consider those kids real people. And you paint them all with the same brushstroke and consider them all white, cishet Christian kids that don't need any protections. I think queer kids and special needs kids and other marginalized kids of MAGA parents need our advocacy and our allyship the most. Because if it weren't for us, they would have nobody in their corner. Nobody fucking cares about them. Nobody cares about them at their school, at their house, at their church. Nobody cares about them. Nobody cares about who they really are or what they really need. So if you choose to not care about those kids because their parents voted for Trump and they didn't care about them, so why should I? That's a personal decision you have to live with. But for me, I feel as strongly about advocating for those kids as I do any other child. You're certainly not going to catch me in any comment section calling those kids future MAGA that deserve what's coming to them.
Standing in solidarity with all of the people that have lost their dads to Fox News and MAGA. On the bright side, I didn't have to get him a Christmas gift. His birthday was 2 weeks ago, and I didn't have to call him on his birthday. And I didn't have to call him today. Glass half full.
Walking away from your parent is never easy. No child grows up hoping that one day they're gonna stop talking to the people who raised them. But politics has divided so many families because it was a difference in morals. And our children decided to create boundaries to protect their mental health because after many years of trying to convince their parents to see the world from a different view, every conversation turned into an argument at a family dinner. Holidays became stressful instead of joyful. Birthdays became uncomfortable. Instead of feeling loved and understood, they felt judged, dismissed, and emotionally exhausted. So protecting their mental health became important than forcing relationship. On the other side, MAGA parents are shocked and even worried why their own children would stop talking to them over politics. But at that election was not just a vote. It was not a difference in politics. Their vote was involved in people's rights, immigration, healthcare, reproductive freedom, treatment of vulnerable people, and LGBTQ rights. So it was about people's lives. And many people believe that a vote is a reflection of someone's priorities and even values. And that's why emotions became so intense. But the fact that so many families have reached at this point, it shows how deeply divided America has become. The 2024 election will be remembered not just as who lost or even who won, but the election that had so many families become divided. It was not a difference in politics, Democrats versus Republicans. It was a question about what kind of a country Americans wanted to live for future generations. So thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next video.